Hi everyone, I'm just going to go ahead and jump straight into the video. I'm going to be showing you guys how I get perfect box braids each time. And this is what I call my 3-row box braids. First I just start off by making a part from temple to temple, ear to ear, whatever you want to call it. And I just go around the head, and that would constitute as 1 row. So I'm just showing you guys how I taper the hair at the end. When it comes to the amount that you put in each braid, you just sort of have to get a feel from it. As you go, you'll sort of notice like, oh, this braid is too big, this braid is too small, so you'll get better at sectioning hair. And one thing I like to do is when I make the first part, I'll put some edge control on the part, and then I'll go back and fine tune the part to make sure it's straight. And I do that for just about every individual braid. If you guys would like a video on how I attach my extensions to the hair, let me know. I do it in a really weird way, so it's a little hard to teach, which is why I'm just sort of showing it to you, but not going in depth. One thing I have found about the method that I do is that it's not as tight as it traditionally is, but it's still secure. And that's what allows my clients to be able to just sleep that night, not have to take ibuprofen. So I don't show me going around the entire row. It's pretty self-explanatory. You just keep making your boxes, especially for that first one. They don't have to be any kind of size per se, because the next row is where you'll sort of do your bricklay pattern. So however big you do it, or big or small you go, will determine the rest of the braids. So when you're working on the braids along the hairline, you just want to be careful not to pull too tight. Sometimes it'll look like it's snatched, what people would say, but really it's the edge control that's smoothing the hair into the braid, more so than you like gripping it really tight. So here you see me doing the second row, and I just make a part going around her head again. It doesn't have to be perfect because you're going to continue to correct it as you go. I like to use the Creme of Nature extra hold, I think it is, edge control, and it generally works pretty well on all hair types. You just have to work fast with it because it can start to curl your client's hair up. So now you see that I have finished row 2, and I'm just going to be doing the last braid. Put my edge control on, I get my comb, using the rat tail, and just perfecting that part. And that's truly what gets you the perfect parts every time. Another tip, in case the hair isn't parting very well, or you're not able to part it and then keep the part there, say if they have like short pieces throughout their hair, you can get I guess like a glob of edge control, and then just run your finger with the edge control all around the part, and then repart it, and then it'll be perfect. You can do that with your cornrows as well. So now you see me doing the last row. This is row 3. I offer 3 rows and 4 rows. The main difference is that with 4 rows, you have to make the rows smaller to accommodate for more. And it's important once you get to row 2 and row 3 that when you part, you pretty much are going to part in between the box that's below it, and that's how you get that bricklay, or I think some people call it like windows. I'm not entirely sure how to call it. That's how you get that bricklay pattern, so that way the hair isn't super gappy and you see a lot of scalp. And I just show you this braid so you can sort of see how I part it. And that's really how you get perfect boxes every time. It's actually really easy once you get the hang of it. And I've been doing this for years now, and I haven't had any problems with it. It also allows you to go faster. These took me 2.5 hours to complete. It takes me about 20 to 25 minutes per row. And then this top part takes me about an hour to complete. And normally I do about 5 rows on top. And to separate it, to make sure that I don't run out of, if I don't accidentally make one of the rows on the top too big or too small, I'll pre-part them and then sort of take a look at them and see, okay, this one is too big or this row is too small, and that way as I go, I'll fix the part, sort of like how you see I'm doing now. And with the top part, it's the same as the rest of it. I normally do 3 in that first row, and the next row will be 4 braids. The third row will be 5 braids. Maybe the next one will be 6, and then it'll go down to 5 along the hairline, as you see. And it naturally, it'll sort of like pyramid off of itself from there. One thing to keep in mind when you're braiding the hairline is to not pull so hard when you're braiding the whole braid down, because that can cause tension, and you'll see that the client will start holding onto the braid because it's being pulled too much. And one thing I do for that last row is, I guess it's braided going back, so it won't fall on their face. It'll fall to the side of their face. And that'll help frame it, and they can move it either direction, to the left or to the right. By doing it this braid pattern, you also they'll have the versatility of having a left part or a right part, and you don't have to sort of like map it out in your head beforehand. It's just naturally going to go that way. The only difference is that if they want a middle part, you just sort of have to keep that in mind when doing the top. Like, say for instance, the row that I'm working on right now has 5 braids. If they wanted a middle part, you're going to have to either do 4 braids or 6 braids. So it's sort of just up to you and your judgment and what you think will look best on the client. And that's pretty much it. Now I just go through and spray their scalp with braid spray as well as their hair, and then I'll get some mousse. This is literally the cheapest mousse I can find, and just put a really generous amount on their whole head, and that'll help with any like frizzies or anything they may have. Then I'll just trim away the straggly ends, dip it in hot water, and then you're good to go. Sometimes you may have to re-dip the ends if they get crinkly somehow, but doing it this way, they won't have to re-dip it throughout the course of their style. They shouldn't unravel or anything. And yeah, it's fast, it's neat, it's easy, and it's consistent, and that's the most important part. And I just go back and do the finishing touches with some edge control, but that's about it. I forgot to get a final picture of what it looked like, but you guys can see sort of, and yeah, I hope you guys like it. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to comment, definitely subscribe, and I'll also leave my website if you would like to book with me.